Welcome back, pro wrestling fans. Welcome back, IWC. It's me. It's me. It's the G.O.C. coming to you live to tape, 25 feet below the surface of the earth. Here for another edition of Chaos Corner on this date, today, in pro wrestling history. I can't thank you fans enough for being here. It's cold outside, but things are about to heat up here on Chaos Corner. One man, unique, unedited, unscripted, raw dog for you, the fans. No Patreon, no Super Chats, no paywall, no Zelle or Venmo or PayPal. It's you and me, the G.O.C. Now, you know there was no show yesterday if you went to the community page for the update, because I did about 10 to 12 hours of intensive video research and highlights from the world of pro wrestling all the way back to 1988 to make sure that I do my due diligence for the show here on Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel. Follow me on X in real time at Big Daddy GOC, and the GOC stands for the Guardian of Chaos. On Instagram, it's the Guardian of Chaos. On Facebook, I have 2 accounts. That's right, there's 2. No, I'm not Don King or Dick Nixon. The 2 accounts on Facebook are J Brony, just like it sounds, not Jabroni, J Brony, and Protigio Fidelis El Guardian. Follow me on Gitter, Gab, Truth Social, Rumble. I cover it all in the IWC for you, the fans. I have the Hall's Mentholyptus for the pipes. I'm feeling a little bit better. It's been about a week or 2, but I'm coming back stronger and bigger and badder than ever. Thanks from the bottom of my heart for being here. I'm going to jump off all the other social media platforms. Come on back here. Like, subscribe, leave a message, email me, inbox me, and come on back to Chaos Corner. All right, fans, now that we're off all the other social media platforms, I will be uploading this today, obviously, on YouTube, Instagram, X, so on and so forth, and little snippets and clippets. We have a very interesting show here today on the channel. As I said, I took a day or 2 off here and there. One was due to my 60th birthday bonanza extravaganza, and of course, yesterday for some intensive video research. I have my appearance coming up. It will be live to tape this Sunday. That's right, this Sunday, November 12th. Keep an eye out on the PWZ podcast right here on YouTube, and WON Sports also here on YouTube, where I do a 2-hour unbelievable show covering the history of pro wrestling and today's current product with myself and the Professor Rick Del Santo. You're not going to want to miss it. This Sunday, November 12th on PWZ Podcast and WON Sports. It really was an unbelievable 2-hour show. What I'd like to bring up today before I get into today, this date in pro wrestling history, for November 8th, I listened a little bit earlier today to the legendary Kevin Von Erich, because today in the Texas area, Iron Claw will be released, and then it will be released later in December, the history and the story of the Von Erichs. Zac Efron plays the lead role as Kevin Von Erich. And to listen to Kevin Von Erich this morning on Busted Open Radio talk about the movie and its accuracy, and saying that it's pretty accurate. And then I know that MJF was in the movie as well. He said that the actors, the producers, the directors did an unbelievable job, on being fairly accurate for the documentary. Kevin talked about everything from Kerry Von Erich to Mike to David to Chris to even Lance Von Erich today on Busted Open Radio. An interview well worth it. He has a home in San Antonio, Texas, still has his home out in Kauai. I'm in touch and follow social media-wise Marshall and Ross Von Erich, his kids that wrestle currently today. So just an unbelievable story. I'm looking forward to the Iron Claw and to listen to Kevin Von Erich truly one of the legends of this business. And if you go back to world-class championship wrestling, especially with the intense rivalry and feud with the fabulous Freebirds, I mean, there wasn't a better time in the early 80s with the Von Erichs and world-class championship wrestling. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see it. It will be released in December in theaters all over the country. Iron Claw, the history of the Von Erichs. And to listen to Kevin talk about his father, Fritz Von Erich, and how he's been misconstrued and misportrayed and misinformation about how tough he was and what a son of a bitch he was, a bastard, pardon my language if you want to talk about it, how rough he was on the boys, and how it was a different day and age and time back in the 20s and 30s, even into the 40s and the Vietnam era and so on and so forth, and how men were men and just people were raised differently and men were differently. We all go through hard times and tough times, but it's a man that gets back up and continues to move forward, and how he was beat at times with a leather strap. I can vouch for that myself. When I was a young boy back in the day, myself and my two older brothers, if we did something wrong, I'm going back here into the early 70s, my father would come home and whoop our ass with a 3-finger leather strap. Okay, we used to put magazines and hide books in our jeans, our dungarees back then, so when my father came home to whoop our ass that we wouldn't feel it as much. My father literally used to make us kneel on a 5-pound bag of rice and face the opposite side of the wall. And not just kneel straight up on your knees for hours if we did something wrong or if we misbehaved. That's just the way it was. So I can vouch for Kevin Von Erich, and when he talks about how people have portrayed Fritz Von Erich and what kind of man he was. It was a different time and era back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Not all, and I'm not saying I agree with it. That's just the way it was. Those were the times. You could never get away with that bullshit today, especially with all the soft parents and all the people and how they've raised people and what they are today, calling DCF and this and that, Child Protective Services, all a bunch of bullshit. And that's why we have some of the problems with the generation of under 25 years old in this day and age in 2023. Shout out to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because without him, none of this would be possible. And you, the fans. Because Jesus Christ is coming back soon. Don't be caught dead without him. I don't want to get too much into religion and politics on here, but that's my PSA. It's my channel. So I will put it out there. Stay close to your family and friends. Situational awareness. Tomorrow is not guaranteed for any of us. So if he's for us, nobody could be against us. So stay in faith, prayer up, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Let's get on to this date today in pro wrestling history for November 8th. I want to really flash back and go all the way back in the time machine to November 8th, 1948. Bert Azarati defeats Ivar Martinson in Paris, France for the European Heavyweight Championship. Speaking of days gone by, November 8th, 1948. Back into the time machine. November 8th, 1975, St. Paul, Minnesota. Nick Bockwinkel defeats Vern Gagne for the AWA World Heavyweight title, ending Gagne's 9th reign. This was Nick Bockwinkel's first reign, and it lasted over 4 years. Don't judge my fingers. It's all from the business and the work I did for years, and this is what happens when you become my age and you were so physical throughout your life. It's a part of history. It's a part of life, referring back to the Von Erichs. Let that sink in. Let that marinate. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. So how about Nick Bockwinkel holding that AWA title for over 4 years? November 8th, 1975. This date in pro wrestling history as Bockwinkel goes over on Vern Gagne. Back into the time machine. November 8th, 1980. Tony Garea and Rick Martel defeat the Samoans for the WWF World Tag Team titles in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, ending the second reign for Afa and Sika. the legendary Samoan dynasty. Let's give a few birthday shout-outs early here today on the program. Happy birthday on this date, November 8th, 1984, to big man Keith Lee, turns 39 today. November 8th, 1987, happy birthday, who turns 36 today? Kazuchika Okada. Konnichiwa, bitches, origato, from the G.O.C. Okada, 39 today. And also today, on this date, November 8th, Ted DiBiase Jr. turns 41. I love the sugar-free honey and lemon. If you're going to try something for the pipes, that's what you need. Back into the time machine. November 8th, 1993. Grandmaster Sexay, or at this time, Brian Christopher and Double J, old slapnuts, Jeff Jarrett, defeat Rex Hargrove and Coco Beware for the USWA Tag Team titles in Memphis, Tennessee, starting their second reign. Now here's the useless tidbit of pro wrestling history information that I always come up with. Just 7 days prior, Christopher and Jarrett lost the belts to Hargrove and Coco Beware, only to win it back here on November 8th, 1993. November 8th, 1997, ECW at the ECW Arena in Philadelphia. Here's the card for that night. Chris Candido and Lance Storm defeat Tommy Rogers and Jerry Lynn. Current agent in AEW, Jerry Lynn. Mikey Whipwreck goes over on Spike Dudley in a battle of the little men that can certainly kick ass. Al Snow goes over on Paul Diamond. Axel Rotten defeats Devon Dudley, John Cronus, and Tracy Smothers in a four-way dance. No? Too early for the four-way dance? On that same card, Justin Credible defeats Chris Chetty, Taz's cousin. The Blue Meanie goes over on Jason Knight. ECW World Champion, the Beast from the East, Bam Bam Bigelow, defeats Shane Douglas. Also on that card, Taz and Tommy Dreamer defeat Sabu and Rob Van Dam, a.k.a. Mr. Monday Night, a.k.a. the whole fucking show. I apologize for cussing. I don't mean to, man. It's a joke. It's a word. Kayfabe, man. All that on the ECW Arena for ECW on November 8th, 1997. Let's hop back into the time machine here at Chaos Corner. Let's stay in November 8th, 1997. Bull Payne defeats Buddy Landell in Bardstown, Kentucky to win back the IWA Mid-South Heavyweight title, which Landell had won the night before on November 7th, 1997. November 8th, 1999, here on the Time Machine. The New Age Outlaws defeat Mankind and Al Snow for the WWF World Tag Team titles in State College, Pennsylvania. This would be the fifth reign for Billy Gunn and the Road Dogg. How about Billy Gunn at 60 years old, jacked, ripped, buff, like shredded wheat, still in the business today as a part of the Acclaimed in AEW. Scissor me, daddy ass. Aren't they the trios champions right now? I'm not down with the whole Mr. Ass and I'm an ass man and scissor me and all that, but it is what it is. The fans of 2023 like it, all you smarks and geeks and dweebs and nerds and marks. That's right, I said it, marks. I'm a mark too, man. No offense. Back into the time machine. Let's stay in 1999, November 8th. Scott Hall defeats Bret the Hitman Hart for the vacant WCW United States heavyweight title in a ladder match in Indianapolis, Indiana. This starts Scott Hall's second reign. Got a little tongue-tied right there on something. Who the heck knows what could be in my mouth? What'd I say? Back into the time machine. November 8th, 2003. In a battle billed as the WWE announcers, Jerry the King Lawler defeats Al Head Snow in Secaucus, New Jersey to win the Jersey All-Pro Wrestling Heavyweight title. Al Snow is doing a heck of a job down on OVW right now. Listen, he was no Jim Cornette when Cornette was running OVW. That's just my opinion. Let's stay in November 8th, 2003. Kid Cruel defeats Christopher Daniels in Wilmington, Delaware to win the ECWA Heavyweight title. How about that? Back into the time machine. November 8th, 2005, SmackDown in Indianapolis, Indiana for the TV tapings. Now pay attention to this one, fans. This is history, sadly and unfortunately. Eddie Guerrero defeats Ken Kennedy, who went on to be Mr. Kennedy, via disqualification when Guerrero, lie, cheat, and steal, tricked referee Charles Robinson, is that a sign? Who has the brain of a dehydrated baby, let's face it, Charles Robinson, into thinking that Kennedy used a chair against Guerrero. As a result of the win, Eddie earned a spot on the SmackDown team for Raw vs. SmackDown at the upcoming Survivor Series in 2005. On a sad note, that would be Eddie's last match, and it would be broadcast just 2 days before his death. Let's sit back and think on that, on one of the greatest of all time, Eddie Guerrero. November 8th, 2005. Rest in peace, Eddie. Back into the time machine, November 8th, 2007. The WWE releases Chris Masters. Now, if you remember back on this date in pro wrestling history last week, Masters was in the middle of serving a 60-day suspension for his second wellness policy test failure. Now, as we remember back in the time machine on this date in pro wrestling history, the WWE, I believe it was in 2005, had a wellness policy making it public whenever one of their stars or talent had violated the wellness policy, which led to Chris Masters' release here on November 8th, 2007. November 8th, 2007. Let's stick right there. Joni Laurer legally changes her name to Chyna. Rest in peace, Chyna. A true pioneer and legend in this business. A legit badass. R.I.P. So in 2007, Joni officially changed her name legally to Chyna. Let's stay in the time machine at November 8th, 2007. Another sad story, unfortunately, that we've been covering here for days. CNN, which is now a libtard station, really full of misinformation. Oh, no offense, man. They ran a special on pro wrestling called Death Grip. Inside Professional Wrestling, sharing highlights of Chris Benoit's win over Chris Jericho for the WWE World title at WrestleMania 20. They show Michael Benoit, Chris's father, looking at paranoid letters that Chris wrote to Eddie Guerrero talking about dreams that he had, including the Benoit's parents' demise and Nancy Benoit's parents. And we know the history. 19 months later, Benoit would kill his wife and his child. Now, on further note on that, here on November 8th, 2007, Dr. Keith Pinkers studied wrestlers' deaths from 1983 to 2003, finding that 64 wrestlers died before the age of 40. CNN also conducted an investigation finding that 18 wrestlers who died before the age of 50 in the past 5 years. Now remember the time frame, 2007. Chris Kanyon is also in the documentary. He discusses how he overdosed on sleeping pills and could have killed himself. And we know what's happened since with Chris Canyon. Excuse me. There's no edit button here, man. There's no cough button. That's what you get. On that show, Death Grip Inside Professional Wrestling, they also interviewed Vince and Linda McMahon, who said they had no idea Chris would become such a monster. Well, none of us did, Vince and Linda. Hello, McFly. They talked with CM Punk and how he actually looked up to Chris Benoit, or Benoit looked up to Punk. So CM Punk was also in this documentary. Vince's apology for the tribute show the next night on ECW was also aired. They also talked to Del the Patriot Wilkes. Rest in peace, Del. You were a great man. It was always a pleasure to talk to you. And he says, back then in 2007, that Vince changed wrestling, making it a place for big wrestlers because that's what Vince wanted. Hence all the steroids and so on and so forth. And we know the steroid trial back in the early and mid-90s. It was mentioned how Wilkes also went to jail for a brief time over pills and steroids and stuff like that, if I have my facts correct. But Del Wilkes turned out to be one heck of a great man. He certainly was a great man back then and turned out to be a legitimate Christian and a good person who really gave back to this sport and spoke out against its abuses. And again, rest in peace, Del Wilkes. Vince also states that the media didn't force him to institute his current wellness policy or when it came into effect in approximately 2005. Now, we know Vince is full of shit. Well, no offense, Vince. And remember this, fans. I know, and you know that I know, that you're watching. You know that, right? You know that I know. Back into the time machine, November 8th, 2008. Tickets for WrestleMania 25 in Houston, Texas officially went on sale on that date, with sales of $4.8 million. WrestleMania 25. November 8th, 2009. New York Giant great Lawrence Taylor, who helped headline WrestleMania 11 in 1995 when he defeated the late great Bam Bam Bigelow in Hartford, Connecticut, in the shadows of Titan Towers, here in the greater New England tri-state northeast area. Lawrence Taylor is arrested on charges of leaving the scene of a traffic accident. Let's stay in November 8th, 2009. The WWE developmental territory of Florida Championship Wrestling aired on TV on the Bright House Network in Florida. Now, at the time, Steve Keirn was the president of Florida Championship Wrestling, and the announcers were Byron Saxton and the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. Now, if you go back to the unbelievable territories and Eddie Graham and Florida Championship Wrestling, it truly was an unbelievable territory in the 70s and 80s. Do your research. This date, November 8th, 2009, when Steve Keirn took over that developmental territory. November 8th, 2011. An attorney for Kurt Angle entered a plea of no contest to a charge of reckless driving after Angle was pulled over in Virginia and charged with DUI. The good news, later the state would drop the charges and Angle would pay a measly $1,500 fine. More crazy news on this date in history, November 8th, 2012. Hulk Hogan filed a request for a jury trial as an updated complaint against Gawker Media and other defendants during a court hearing over his leaked sex tape with Heather Clem. Heather Clem. You know, Bubba the Love Sponge's wife and all that stuff. Hogan ended up winning the case there, as you well know. Got millions from Gawker. How about that? Back into the time machine. We'll go forward to go back and back to go forward. November 8th, 2009. Tiger Mask defeats Mystico in Tokyo, Japan for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. And you know how I feel about weight classes and titles. And go back and listen here on the channel. 2,500 videos coming up on that 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. We will be going live. Plus our normal live to tape, which I'm the only one that does this in this business with my over 50 years of experience in this business and my over 3 decades of being involved in the business as a pro wrestling manager who took the fucking bumps. I'm proud of that. Nobody else can say that. Except maybe your Jimmy Hart's, your Jim Cornette's, your Bobby the Brain Heenan's, your Captain Lou Albano's. A few others that I might be missing, but who else took the fucking bumps like I did? I don't think anybody did. Don't ever question me. What? I'm okay, man. I'll say that to say this because I tell it like it is. November 8th, 2014, Jushin Thunder Liger defeats Chase Owens to win the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title at New Japan's Power Struggle in Osaka, Japan. November 8th, 2017, the Impact Wrestling TV tapings in Ottawa, Canada. Laurel Van Ness defeats Rosemary to win the Knockouts Championship. You know I have to do this on just about every show. Laurel Van Ness is who? Bueller? Anyone? Laurel Van Ness is now in the WWE as Chelsea Green. How about that? November 8th, 2019, SmackDown in Manchester, UK. The New Day, comprised of that point of Kofi and Big E, defeat the Revival, Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson, aka FTR in the AEW, to win the WWE SmackDown Tag Team titles. And on a final note on this date in history, November 8th, 2015, the legendary Don Fargo passes away. Now, fans, I believe that might be my news and notes for this date in history on November 8th. And again, I can't thank you guys enough for being here. We kept it under a half an hour. And again, my apologies for missing yesterday. But again, right when I get out of here at Chaos Corner, we'll go right back to the library. And I'll be studying my hundreds of tapes, putting together more programs and more shows for you, the fans. So I'll say that to say this, as I always do, because I tell it like it is. Don't you dare miss it. I'm not going yet. I gotta hydrate. Thanks for being here, guys. Well, wait, gals, come on, we don't discriminate here.